Good evening. This video is to talk about how dialects differ. This is my homework for YouTube University. I interviewed Mr. Garzon, who is a teacher that worked with me, and we have an article named "How Can Language Differ?" First, I will state that language is not something static. It changes through the time. It moves. Um, but when the nation started growing and communities get apart one to each other, those changes were not the same. Even though they spoke the same language, they changed differently. For example, in the United States, at the beginning, it started as a colony of England, and even the first decades they had almost the same way to speak, but through the time they started changing it a little bit in something that I will talk about later. To talk about my interview to Mr. Garzon, I would say that he established the main difference in the same languages. It's about pronunciation, and he affirms that the changes in the pronunciation is how dialects start. If I was trying to contrast a little bit my interview to Mr. Garzon when he speaks about morphology and syntaxis, and it's almost the same with the article. They say that morphology is just the way that the words are built up and how they are compounded, and the syntax is about the words in context of what do we use them for. The only difference I could state is that in the article there are more examples, especially in other languages, because Mr. Garzon only spoke about Spanish and English, but in the article there are more examples, like the use of the Navajo languages in the word, and also a language name, Basque. I would like to add something that I think that both the article and Mr. Garzon forgot to talk about. It's about how people from different nations contribute to change a language. At the beginning of the colonies in North America, there were only British people, but later it became people from different countries from Europe, and they include the words they had in their mother tongues into English, and also they took words from the American native, and several years it started to change into another kind of dialect that nowadays is almost difficult. Sometimes takes a time for American to understand British and British to understand American. Eventually they will, because it's the same language, even though they have changed certain words according to their own reality. And it also could explain something about how a new language could appear as the dialect start to get a little more away from the first language. It eventually could become a language. And that's it. Goodbye.